It's 9:47 at night. You just closed your laptop, and for 4 full seconds, your apartment is completely silent. Your chest tightens before you even register why. Your thumb is already unlocking your phone. Your foot is already reaching for the TV remote. Some part of you is scanning the room for anything to fill the space. You've always called this just liking background noise, but psychology tells a completely different story. There are 6 traits that explain why silence feels less like peace and more like an ambush, and why you've spent years outrunning it without ever knowing what you were actually running from. Trait 1. Silence doesn't create your thoughts, it just stops muting them. Every playlist, every podcast, every show running in the background while you fold laundry works like a dam. It holds back a reservoir of thinking that never actually stopped for the day, it just went quiet under the noise. But here's what doesn't quite add up. The size of what floods in has almost nothing to do with how big your problems actually are. Some nights it's the whole day catching up with you at once. Other nights it's one throwaway sentence a coworker said at lunch, and somehow that's the one that won't let you sleep. That's because none of it was ever really about severity. It was about scheduling. You never gave these thoughts an appointment, so they've been queuing at the door since 7 that morning, waiting for the one moment your guard finally drops, and when your laptop closes and the room goes quiet, the dam doesn't lower gently. It opens all at once. That explains why the thoughts show up at all. It doesn't explain why the first ones through the door are almost never the calm ones. Trait 2. Your brain runs a threat scan the moment external input drops, and it always finds something. Psychologists call part of this negativity bias, the mind's tendency to hunt for threats faster than it hunts for safety. But naming it doesn't explain the strange part. The scan almost never turns up something new. It reaches for the same handful of moments, over and over, like it's working from a very short list. One theory: for most of human history, sudden silence could mean total safety, or a predator close enough that even the birds went quiet. Your nervous system still can't fully tell the difference, so the instant the room goes quiet, it scans. Not for what's fine, for what's wrong. That unanswered text, the comment in Tuesday's meeting you can't stop replaying, the thing you said back in 2019 that nobody else on Earth still remembers, none of it is more dangerous than a podcast episode. It just got louder because everything else got quieter. If any of this is already sounding familiar, subscribe, because trait 3 is the one most people recognize first and don't expect. Knowing your brain is built to scan for threats explains why something surfaces. It doesn't explain why it's so often the exact same something, night after night. Trait 3. You're not avoiding silence. You're avoiding an appointment with something you already know is unfinished. Somewhere underneath the noise habit is usually one specific thing, a conversation that ended wrong, a version of your life you quietly grieved, someone you didn't get to say something to. But if you actually knew exactly what it was, you'd probably have dealt with it by now. It's rarely that clear. It's closer to keeping a browser tab open that you never click on, still running in the background, still using memory, whether you look at it or not. Maybe it's a parent you stopped calling as often. You can go weeks without thinking about it directly, right up until the exact moment the room falls quiet enough for it to surface on its own. Silence doesn't create that tab. It's just the only condition quiet enough for you to hear it still loading. And once you can hear it loading, your body usually notices before your mind catches up. Trait 4. Silence doesn't only turn up your thoughts, it turns up your body, and that's the part almost nobody warns you about. Without something to listen to, you start listening to yourself instead, your heartbeat, the tightness in your jaw, a knot in your stomach you've been calling just stress for 6 months. But that word never quite covers it, does it? Stress doesn't usually come with a specific location in your chest. This is close to what's called interoception, your brain's radar for what's happening inside your own body. And for a lot of people, it seems to sharpen the moment outside noise disappears. For someone who already carries tension, that sharpening can feel less like calm and more like an alarm going off in a room with no exit. So you reach for noise again, not because you're weak, but because for one moment, your body finally stopped whispering and started shouting, and you genuinely didn't know what to do with that volume. But the body isn't only reacting to what already happened today. Sometimes it's reacting to a question you haven't let yourself ask yet. Trait 5. Somewhere in that silence is a question your schedule has been quietly protecting you from. Is this the life you actually meant to build? Busyness is one of the most socially acceptable forms of avoidance that exists. Nobody questions a full calendar. But a full calendar was never actually the goal, was it? It was just the easiest excuse not to check. Underneath the noise, there's often a much quieter, harder question waiting, not a crisis, just an honest audit of whether today looks anything like what you pictured 5 years ago. Silence has a way of removing every excuse not to ask it. That's not a flaw in you. That's your mind refusing to let you sleepwalk through a life you never consciously chose, even if the timing of that reminder is, frankly, inconvenient at 9:47 on a Tuesday. And once you notice one honest question like that, it's hard not to notice it's been the same question underneath everything else so far. Trait 6. And this is the one that reframes all 5 before it. The cued thoughts, the threat scan, the unfinished tab, the body's alarm, the quiet audit of your life, none of them were separate problems. They were the same signal, arriving through 5 different channels, because one channel was never going to be loud enough to get your attention. The fact that silence feels loud to you isn't evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that you've been carrying more than you've let yourself admit, for longer than you've let yourself admit it. People who don't flinch in silence aren't necessarily calmer than you. They may simply have learned to hear their internal weather without treating every signal as an alarm. The same sensitivity that makes silence uncomfortable is the same sensitivity that lets you notice a friend's mood shift before they say a single word. You didn't develop a fear of silence. You developed an early warning system, and it never learned how to switch itself off just because the day is technically over. You don't need to fix this by forcing more silence on yourself, and you don't need to feel guilty for reaching for noise either. What actually helps is smaller than that, a few minutes of quiet on your own terms, at a time you choose, instead of silence ambushing you at 9:47 at night when your guard is already down. Try it earlier in the day, before your defenses are already worn down. Even 5 minutes on your own terms changes how silence feels when it finally arrives. You were never avoiding peace. You were avoiding an ambush, and now you know the difference. That system was never trying to ruin your evenings. It was trying to make sure that whatever it was flagging didn't get lost in the noise forever. You were never broken. You were built with a nervous system that notices everything, including the things you haven't said out loud yet. Which trait hit closest to home? Drop a number in the comments.